Hello everybody, in this video I'm going to show you how to use Angular, the core concepts of Angular, and we'll use the new feature of Angular, everything that has released lately. So if you don't subscribe, please subscribe and like the video. Now let's start the video. First we need an editor, so I use the VS Code to edit my code, and also make sure you need to install this Node.js. Now in order to run Angular, first we need to install HTML. So to install the HTML, you need to go to Windows PowerShell, or you can also open your VS Code selector after installing that. But in my case I will use the window PowerShell. So in the window PowerShell I can type npm install g, which means globally it is accessible throughout all projects. So I will type angular /CLI. Optionally you can use the version after this, example 70 or something like that. Let's see that. I'm not sure how to write that. Let's see angular CLI install, and let's go here and let's show you that. You can see you can add and you can type the version of the CLI, and you can install that. And for my case I will use the CLI. If you install like this, it will install the latest version of the CLI. So if you want to add a specific version, example 60, you can type like this and it will install version 60. So in my case I will install the latest version. So if I click that, it will install all the dependencies. Let's wait that. You can see now it has added 225 packages. It has added our CLI. Now if you want to see the version of the CLI, you can type ng version and it will give you the version of the CLI. You can see in my case it is Angular CLI 80.2, but if you install at 70 and at 60, the version will be different, but if you install like this, the version will be the same. So you can see I have installed the Angular CLI. Next I can add any project, for example ng new, and type my name, but in my case I will use the VS Code to install that. The other thing I want to show you is ng. If I type help, you can see it will give me all the elements I can create using the ng. You can see I can add a collection, analytics, cache, compilation, and more. You can see you can create different things. The other is, if I type ng new, also you can add help also here, and it will give you another help. You can give, it will give you different things what you can create and what you can do with different things. You can read this and you can create different type of elements, and also you can generate different things. You can see ng generate and type help, and also it will give you this command is yeah, it is available only after we install the Angular project. So let's do that and let's show you that. So I can come here in my VS project and I can open my terminal, and let's create a new project, ng new, and if you want to create, if I create a new project, it will create another folder. So I don't want another folder in this folder, so I will type directory and dot. Now it will create inside this folder, Now it will ask me the name of the project. Let's give it Angular tutorial, and let's type, and let's say yes, and it will install all the dependencies. You can see it didn't create any nested folder because I have a type directory dot, and it will give me all the elements outside of the nested folder. Let's wait the installation. Now you can see I have installed it successfully. You can see I have a source directory. All the node modules have been installed. Now let's show you the previous example: energy, generate, and help. If I type this, now it will give me all the instructions that I can generate. You can see I can generate service worker, web workers, resolvers, pipe, and many more. You can use this command to see what type of things you can do. So this is how you generate different things. It is very helpful. The command is energy, generate, and help. This is the abbreviation, and you can type energy generate. This is the abbreviation. G is the abbreviation. So you can see it. If I type help, it can give you different things you can generate, and it is very good. You don't need to memorize everything. So this is how you create Angular projects. Let's move on to the next section. Now let's create a signal in Angular. So to create a signal, we can use let's say the variable name count equals signal. We need to import from Angular core, and let's say the initial value to 0, and you can also specify the type of signal. In my case it is a number, so let's specify as a number and save it. Now we have specified the count. Now in order to render this count on the template, you can go to the template. Let's create h1, and inside this h1 you can render count, and make sure to add these two brackets, and it will render the count on the template. Now let's see on the template. It is refreshing. You can see it is rendered the count. Now to update this count, we have different options. First, let's create count change. Let's create a function which says count change, and in this count change, let's update the count whenever we click some button. So the first option, using a set method, let's show you that this dot count dot set, and you can set a number. The set is used to change the number to another constant number, but in my case I need to update every time I click the button, so I need to use update, and let's give it a v, and inside this v plus 1. Now every time I click count change, the count will increment by 1. Now let's save this. And let's come here, and let's create a button, and let's say count change, and let's create click count change. Now when I click this button, the count will update every time. You can see now if I go here, now if I click this, you can see this is how you update the count. Also there is another way, as I have shown you. I can use a set method, but a set method we cannot update every time when we click. We need to set to a constant number, let's say 10, and save it. Now when I click it, it will change to 10, but if I click it again, it will do nothing, because we have already updated to 10 from the initial value. So if you want to update the signal value every time something is changes, or if you want to update dynamically, we can use the update method. If you want to set to a constant value, you can use set. So now you can use these methods to update the signal. The other is we can create another signal from this signal, which is, let's say, count2 equals to create another signal from the previous signal. You can use computed, and it creates a function, and let's say this dot count. We can also double or triple or add another number to this, let's say times 2. Now this count2 is always double of this count, and when this count updates, this count2 also updated, because it is reactive value. Make sure to import the computed value, computed from Angular core. Let's change this to this, I think. Yeah, now I can render both the count and the count2. Let's show you that, and let's use the update, and v plus 2 or v plus 1. Now when I click this button, it will update the count every time by 1, and also the count also doubled, so the count also updated. Let's show you that. We can also render the h1 and count2. I can render both of them, and let's come here. You can see initially it is 0. 0 times 2 is 0, so it will not do anything. But if I change this, you can see it will update this to 1, and it will update this to 2, and so on and so forth. This is how you update the count and the count2. The other thing is count2 is read-only signal. You cannot update using set or something like that. Let's show you that. If I use this dot count2 dot set, and let's set 34, you can see it will throw me some error, because this is read-only signal. You cannot update the value that you get from computed. You cannot do that. But if you say this to signal, it is a writable signal. So in order to update the count2, you need to change the count2 to another signal like this, I think, like this, count3 and signal, and you can use count2 like this. Maybe if it works. Yeah, this dot count. Now I've changed the count3 to count2. Now I need to delete this and set this to number. Now I have changed this to, also make sure to add this bracket in this case, and let's save this. Now if I change count3, it works fine, because count is read-only signal, and when I change to this to signal, it will turn into writable signal, so I can change that also. So when I click this dot count3 dot update, and v, let's give it v times 3. Now when I click this, it will update to count2, and it will multiply by 3, and let's render this also, h1, and count 3, and let's save this. Now it works fine. Now let's show you that if I change this, nothing happens. I don't know. Yeah, nothing happens. Maybe let's remove this and let's save this. Why it's giving me, yeah, it will take the initial value of count always, so that's the problem, I think. So maybe we don't need to use this another time. So let's save this and let's save this again. Now it works fine. That's a bad practice. Don't use like that. If you want to create a value, don't use like that. Use a computed and this. So now the other is, if you want to run side effect inside this, you can create a constructor, and inside this constructor you can use effect, and inside this effect let's run console.log this is changed value of count, and let's render the count, this count, and save this. Now this effect will always run when this count changes. Now let's show you that. Now when I click this change the value of these changes, and the count will show here on the console, and again when I click this you can see it will show as this. Now this is how you use effect, and you can run any side effects that you want. Also, you can add multiple effects like this, and you can add another independent count like this. Let's uncomment this and let's say this to 5, I think, and count change 3, and let's say this is dot count 3 dot update v plus 3, and let's save this. Now when I come here and let's say h1 and count 3, and can't change it on the button. Let's create a button and count change 3, and let's say click count change 3, and let's save this. Now when I come here you can see it is 5. Now if I run this it will change to 8. Let's check that. We can create this to count 3. Now both effects will run independently. Let's show you that. when I click this, you can see it will run the first effect but not the second effect. The second effect only depends on this. So now when I click this, it will run the first effect, and so on and so forth. So you can use effects and signals like this. This is how you use signal in Angular. Let's move on to the next section. Now after seeing signal, now let's see how to use data binding inside Angular. There are two data binding. The first is we can use the TS file, and we can bind both these two, and we can get the element from this, and we can set the title directly. Let's show you that. If I create an input like this, and inside this input I can render the title, this here, directly inside the template. To do that, I can use ng model, but first I need to import forms module. In order to do that, I can come here, and inside this I must say forms module, and save it. Now after doing that, I can come here and let's add ng model, and let's make this pause bracket like this, and say this ng model equals title. You can see now in the input, this will attach the title from this test file or our app component. Now I can attach this directly inside the input module. Now let's show that. You can see now it has attached this inside this. Also I can write this, but now if I add something in here, also the title also changes. In order to reflect that, I can say h1 and let's render title. It's not like this, like this, title, and save this. Something went wrong. Yeah, I've solved this. Make sure to convert this title to signal. You can see I've converted to signal. Now it will reflect this. You can see I have rendered this. Now when I change this, you can see it will update the signal. This is how you change the ng mod using the ng model. Now you can see I have created the ng model and added the title, and when I change the input, the title also changes. So you can see this is how you create two-way data binding between your template and your test file to update the value. So the other is the other data binding is between your components, which means parent to child components. There are different ways to change and move or transfer data between child and parent component. So in order to show you that, I'll create a new component. Let's generate a component, and let's say this check component, and also I don't want any test file, and I don't want any CSS file. Now it will generate the component. You can see it has created the component. It has You can see check, and it has a component. Now if I want to render this inside my app component, I need to come here, and first I need to import the component. So inside the importers I need to say check component. You can see I've imported this inside my app component. Now let's check the name of the selector. You can see it is app check. Now I can render this inside my app component, and let's directly come here and let's say app check. And when I render this, there's something, maybe I didn't save it. Let's save this and come here. Now it works fine. You can see I have imported the check component inside the root component. Now I can pass the title inside the check component. In order to do that, let's pass the title inside the check component. So in order to do that, I can come here, this file, and let's create the title equals, let's pass the title like this. Now inside the check component I can render directly the title. First I need to import using the input. Let's say title equals input like this, and I need to import the input from Angular core and save this. And inside my component I can render the title like this. Now if I save this and if I come here, you can see it works fine. When I change this, look what happens. You can see both on the parent and on the child components it will change. But what I can't do is I cannot change inside my child component. I cannot change the property directly in here. I can only change the property inside the parent component. You can also pass, this is from the TS file, you can also pass any string components like this. Let's say check equals, this is working. Now I didn't bind any data from the test file, but I can also pass directly a string or a number inside this check. Now in the check component, let's come here, and inside this let's say check equals input, and let's create this, and inside the check HTML again let's create p, and now let's come here and let's say check like this and save it. Now you can see this is working, which I have passed from my parent component. You can see this is a normal string, but if you want to bind from TS file to the template, you can use these brackets like this. But if you directly use a number or any type of data, you can directly use like this. So this is how you pass the data. Now the other is, what if you want to change this title inside the child component? You cannot use an input element. If you try to change this input element directly in the child component, it will throw you an error. But there is another method to do that. We need to use a model element. Let's show you that. First let's come here. Now let's say I want to pass count inside my child component, so I must say count equals count. It is giving me some error. Now you can see I have passed the count element. In this part you can see it is two-way binding. I can directly change in the child component and in the parent component. Now if I come here, the title is only changed on the parent element. If I try to change on the child element, it will throw me error, but the count is two-way data bind. I can change it on the child and also on the parent elements. So now let's change the count element. Let's come here. I have already created a model. Let's change this to input also. I don't need to change this. In order to change the count inside the child element, you need to use model, which is imported from Angular core. You can import it and you can use it here. And in the count, let's show you that in the check count, I can use another P, and I can render the count and save this. Now when I render this and when I come here, you can see it will give me this, and if I come here, you can see it will show me the value. Now I can change the count inside the child component. So I can come here and let's create a function, change count, and this dot count dot update, let's say v, and let's say v plus 1. Let's say any. Let's say this. It will give me some error. Let's give maybe any here. Yeah. Now it will create this value, and I can also change this to number because it is number. Maybe it is. Let's give any here. Now it will update the count. Now in order to do this, let's come here and let's create a button, change count, and let's create click, change count. Let's execute that. Now I can change this count value from the child element, also from the parent element. Let's show you that. If I change this, you can see I can change the count from the child element. If I change this, also from the parent element. So you can use model to change from the child element and from the parent elements. If you use only input, it will only update the value from the parent element. So this is how you use the input and model. Now the other is the output. The output is used to send the message from the child element to the parent element. Now in order to do that, first we need to create an output element. So let's say count again, count 1. Let's say it count 1 equals output. Let's import that and let's give it a number. And let's give it 5. Now we can pass this. Maybe it is giving me some error. Maybe like this. Oh. Now to update the parent element with this output element, we need to emit from this child element. So in order to do that, first let's create a function which says onSet count. Let's say this to onSet count, and let's output this dot count 1 dot emit. Let's emit 5, and let's save this. Now when we click this, let's create a button element. Let's create a button, and let's set it on set count, and let's say this click, and let's say on set count, and let's save this. Now when we output this element from into the parent, it will emit 5, and we can console log this inside the parent element. So in order to do that, we need to come here. First we need to directly import it in the template. So in order to do that, we need to come here, and let's say count 1. You can see it shows. So now after importing this, we need to create a function, let's say onCount, which is completely different from this function. This function and this function are not the same. This function will be called only the parent element, and this function called on the child element, and will pass the emit value to the parent element. Now let's say onCount, and let's say event. Now we need to create this function. Now let's say onCount, and let's say event. The event is the value which the child element have emitted. So let's say event any, and let's say console.log event. Now let's save this. Now when we click the button from the child element, we can console log this element in the parent element. Let's check that. Now when I click this, you can see it will console log on the parent element, because I have saved this to listen to the child event. So you can see we can output data like this from child to parent, and we can pass to data from parent to child, and change the value directly in the child element. And the other is we can pass the data to the child element, and we can read the data as read only on the child element. You can use these properties to create different variables inside the parent and inside the child element. This is how you use that. So other is we can also use a view child to select element from the template. So let's create h1, and in this h1 let's create hashtag element, let's say ELA. Now in order to select this element, we can use view child. Let's show you from the queries has signals. You can see you can select the element. Let's select the element. Now in order to select this, where is that? You can see this is the element. Let's show you that from this. You can select like this div element, and let's copy this and paste it in here. First you need to import it, both element ref and the element ref from the Angular core, and let's save this to LE, and let's save this. Let's come here. Now we have selected from this h1 element. Now this is the signal element, so we can use effect to console log the element. So we can use effect and let's console.log. This is the template, and let's console log this div element. This dot div element. This is a signal, so we need to use brackets. So now when I come here, and you can see this is template. Let's reload this. This is template. It will give us object, but let's see what. Now you can see if I select the native element, it will give me the native element of the div element inside the effects. So this is how you use the view child. It will count this as also a signal. So this is how you use view child and other model, and this is how you bind data to parent and child element. Let's move on to the next section. Now the next part is let's see how we can use a control flow inside Angular app. So control flows are used to render some elements conditionally or to render loops. Now let's show you that, both of them. Let's create a constant is checked. Let's say equals signal. Let's say this to true. And let's say this to boolean. Now this is true. Now if I want to render some elements, I can use the if block to do that. So let's create if element, if, and let's move the is checked element, and let's come here and paste it, and h1, this is checked element. I think it is giving me some error. Let's save this. Oh, it is giving me some error. Let's give a false element, maybe. And let's save this. This condition will return true. Yeah, the problem is you need, because it is signal, we need to call it like this. And let's save this. Now let's save this to true, and let's save this, and let's come here, and this is the checked element. But if I save this to false and save it, and let's come here, you can see it will disappear, because this is a boolean element, and we use if control flow, and if this element is false, we don't render this. This is used to user authentication, like that. If something is false, you don't want to render something, so you use it like this. So the other is we can create a for loop. In order to create that, let's create an array of element. Let's create names equals signal, and let's create 1, 2, and like this, 1, 2, and 3. Now in order to render the names, we need to come to app component, and come here, and let's create add for. In this case we don't need items, we need names, like this, names, and like this, and inside this h1 we can render h1, and we can render item like this, and save it, and let's come here and see it. Let's reload that. You can see it will render all the numbers like this. So this is how I use the for loop, the for control flow, and the if control flow. It is very easy. This is how you render different things based on condition and using loop. So let's move on to the next section. Let's now see how to navigate between different routes. Now I've created only one route. To add another route, first I need to create a component. So first I need to generate a component, and let's say this to components slash check component, and let's keep again testers, and slash s to delete any CSS file. Now let's create our component. As you can see, it has created our check component. So in this check component, you can see the component is working properly. Now we need to create a route for this. So in order to create for a route, we need to go to this and add a path, and in this path let's add a check route, and in this check route let's create component and check component. Yeah, we need to import here, and let's save this, and also on the app component make sure to add router outlet. Now if I save this, you can see when I go to check, the app component will render this router outlet, so the router outlet will be check component. So let's go here. At the moment there is nothing here because it will render router outlet, and the router is found on the check page. So I'm on the home page. So let's show you something. If I want to add a layout around this, let's say h1, this is layout, and save this. Now you can see this layout will be rendered every time if I add another component on all routes. So this is layout will be rendered on all routes Now let's come here. You can see this will be rendered on the home page, and if I go to check page, you can see check works and the layout also rendered. You can see now the other is what if we want to protect our route? We can use can activate method. You can see now everyone can access this route, but if I don't want some users if I don't want some unauthenticated user to use my application, I can use can activate and add the auth guard. So let's create auth guard. Now I didn't create this auth guard, so let's create that. Let's create ng generate guard, and let's create guard slash and auth guard. Auth, let's say auth, and let's say skip tests. Now it will generate as a guard. Let's create can activate, and let's come here. Now it has created our auth guard. Let's delete this route and state, we don't need for now, and also delete this. Now what I want to do is if the user is not authenticated, I need to redirect the user to home page, but if they are authenticated, I want them to stay on the check page. So let's create a check variable. So const check equals, let's create a signal, and let's say this to boolean and true, and let's save this. Now if there is a check, I will return true. I need to add this, and if there is no check, first I need to create a router. Const router equals inject router from Angular router, and if the user is not authenticated, I need to redirect this to, let's return router dot navigate to home page, like this. Now you can see if the user is authenticated, I want to stay they can stay on the check page, but if they are not authenticated, I will redirect them to home page. Let's see the result. Let's we didn't import that to this auth guard. Let's come here and let's say auth guard and save it. Now it works fine because we set the check to true, but let's say if I want the check to false, which means the user is not authenticated, let's say this to false and save it. Now it will direct me to home page. You can see I can't navigate to the check page. You can see it is working, but for now let's leave it set to true. So this is how you authenticate a user, like this. Now I can go to the check page again, and it works fine. Now the other is if I go to the check component, you can see this check component will always be loaded if I am on the check component or not. So to prevent this, it will cause some performance issues. So to prevent this, instead of using the component, we can use the load component method. So I need to delete this, and let's use load component, and in this load component I can use async await, async. Let's create a function. Let's create a variable const m equals import this, and return m dot. Oh, something went wrong. I think I've missed something. Let's see that. Yeah, I need to await this first. If I don't await, it doesn't work properly. I need to await, and let's create m dot check component, and let's save this. Now this component will be loaded direct. If it is not on the check page, it will not be loaded to the main bundle, but only loaded if we are on the check page. We can delete this also, and it works fine. You can see it works fine. It doesn't create any problem. If I am on the home page, it will not be loaded, but if I am on the check page, it will be loaded. So this is how you write in Angular. Now let's move on to the next section. Now let's say if you want to reuse some components using different content. For example, when I render check component inside another component, I don't want to create this template. Instead, I want different template inside different components. So in order to achieve this, we can use ng content. Let's show you that. So instead of creating a check content, let's leave it like this, but below I can create ng content, Now when I save this, now I can create any content I want inside another component. Now when I come here, I can say like this. First I need to import the check component inside my app component, so we need to come here and let's say check component and save it, and come here, let's say app check, like this. Now when I render this, it will show like this because it has some error. We didn't give any component inside this. But if I create h1, and this is the projected component, and save it, let's reload this, and let's go to the home page. It will give me like this. Let's see that. Yeah, we need to remove this. You can see this is the projected content. Now we have projected this ng content in another content. Now if I create another content and project this to another text, it will project me like that. But what if we have two projected content? We can use the select element. So let's show you that. Let's create a div element, and inside this div element let's delete this, and let's create two contents. Let's say select, let's say header, and let's create h1, and this is the middle element, and let's create another ng content, and let's say select equals footer, and let's save this, and let's come here. Now we can specify two elements, not h1 with h1, but we can say like this: header, this is a header element, and let's come here, and let's say footer, this is the footer element. And when I save this, and let's come here, you can see it will project the element. It is the middle element, this is the header element, and this is the footer element. But the other is, what if I don't want to use h1 header element? Instead I want to use h1 and use the select element inside the child element. So in order to do that, I need to use ng project as. So instead of this, I can use h1, and inside h1 I can use ng project as equals header. Now I can say this is the header element, and save this. Now it will give me the same effect. Let's change this to p, and let's save this, and let's reload this. I don't know, it's not working. Yeah, now it works fine. You can see it will give me header and footer. But the other case is, what if there is no element, there is no header and there is no footer element? What if I delete this? If I delete this, it will render the middle element, but because the middle element is used as the default element. Now if I save this, and if I reload this, let's save this, and let's come here. Now you can see it will render the middle element, and it will render properly. So this is how you project content to different components, and how you make your components reusable. Let's move on to the next section. Now let's create services and dependency injection in our components. Dependency injection and services are used to share data between across all the application, and it makes our code more modular and maintainable. So let's show you how to create services. So first we need to come here and need to generate service, and let's say services slash check, let's say check service, and also skip tests. Let's save this. You can see we have created services and check service. Now let's create a signal. Let's show you that. Let's say the signal name check equals signal, and let's say initially it will be 0, and let's say it as a number, and save this. Now I can call this signal anywhere in my components. I can call it in the check component or in the app component. Let's show you in the check component. In the check component, first I need to inject this service inside my check component. So I need to come here and let's say check equals inject and check service. Check service. Yeah, this is the check service. And let's save this. And let's come here. Now I can come here and directly I can call the check variable like this. I can say div and render it like this, check dot check like this. And when I save this and when I come here, it is reloading. You can see it gives us the number. Is that great? You can share data anywhere in your component. You can create central service like this, and we can share the data between all the components. And the amazing thing is, the other thing is, I can manipulate this check directly inside the check component or inside the service component. Let's show you both of them. First, let's manipulate this check component inside this check component. So in order to do this, we need to create increment, and when I increment this dot check dot set, not set, update v plus 1. It's giving me, yeah, it's like this. This dot, yeah, it is dot check like this. Now when I save this, let's create a button or something like that. A button. Let's create a button. Increment check. And let's save this and let's come here and let's create a click event and let's call the function like this, increment. Now when I save this and when I increment it, you can see it is working fine. I can increment inside the component, or I can also increment directly on the service. Let's show you that. If I increment directly on this, let's say increment, let's create a function again. Inside the function, this dot check dot update v plus 1 like this. Now it will increment the check when I click this, and I can call this increment inside this check component. I can delay this now, and I can come here and I need to update this to check dot increment. You can see it will give me autocomplete. I can do it like this also, like this. Now if I come here and increment check, you can see it is working fine also. So this is how you update and change values using the central services. This is a better approach. Instead of creating variables inside each components, if you have central components, use services to share data between all of your components, and it will update fast, and the developer experience is also good compared to the check component. So this is how you use central services and dependency injection in Angular. Let's move on to the next section. Now let's see another concept, which is a directive. This is used to control the template of the component. So let's show you that. First we need to generate a directive, ng generate directive. Let's say directive slash check directive, and let's keep again tests. Now it will generate me a directive. Now you can see it has generated me a directive. Now in this directive I can plug this app check in the template. Let's show you that. In this template, let's create h1. And this is directive. Let's say this is directive. Let's say that. And let's come here and let's say app check, but we need to import this first. So come here, and in the importers we can import let's say check directive, and save it, and let's come here. Now we can use app check, and when I save this and when I come here, nothing is changed because I didn't do any manipulation to this check element. But let's manipulate this. Let's come here in the directive. First let's define element equals inject element ref. Now when we initialize this directive, I need to change the background color to blue. So in order to do that, we can use ng on init, let's delete this, and this dot element dot native element dot style dot background equals background color. I'm not sure if it is background color or background. Let's see that. Yeah, it is background color. Let's say background color equals, let's say, blue, and let's save this, and let's come here. You can see that directive background is changed to blue. So now we can use this element using a different components. You can import this like this, app check, and when we import this, it will change the background color to blue. But the other thing is, I want to change to blue only when we are on the hover set of the text. So in order to do that, I need to remove this first. Let's remove this, and let's delete this first. Now in order to do that, I need to create a function private highlight, like this. I need to create this, and I need to create host listener, and let's say mouse enter. let's see the spelling. I'm not sure the spelling. Yeah, mouse enter. And now let's create the function on mouse enter, and the second is almost leave. The second is almost leave, and let's rename this to leave, and let's say this dot highlight to blue. I think there is some problem. Let's say this to color, and it is a string, and let's say this to color, and let's save this. Now almost leave, when we leave the mouse, this dot highlight to none, which means there will be no background. And when I save this and when I come here, you can see it will show the background to blue, but if I remove this, it will remove the background. So we can change like this. Yeah, we can change like this. Also, if you want, we can add a custom color like this. I can add this custom color in here, and let's save this and let's show that. You can see it, the custom color will be applied to the directive. Now the other is you can use also input element to change the color, also like this. Add input, let's say object, and let's say default string. You can use it like this. I think it's like this. Let's check that. Yeah, you can input this like this, input object background color. Now we can save this. Now we can go to check element, and we can define the color here. Let's say this to blue and save it. I think nothing is changed because we need to specify inside the host listener the background color. Let's say this to, instead of this color, let's say this to this dot background color, and let's save this. You can see now blue will be applied when we hover over the element, but when we move away, the background color will be empty. Let's check that. You can see like that. Let's change this to green. Let's come here to green, and let's save this, and let's come here. You can see it applies the color properly. You can also change this color to any color. Let's create color generator. Let's show you with different colors. Let's create different color. Let's select this color and copy this color, and let's come here and paste this color. I'm showing you can use random color. It's possible to use random color. And now when I come here and come here, you can see the color will be applied. So this is how you use a directive in Angular. So now let's show you how to fetch data in the next section. Now let's see how we fetch data from any server. For that, I've created this JSON placeholder to create fake data. Now inside this, first I need to specify in the root folder, I need to specify the HTTP client. So in order to do that, I need to create provide HTTP client, and inside this I need to create another function with fetch, like this, and create this function. Now I can create any function, any HTTP client function inside this, but instead of doing this inside the component, as I have shown you before, I can create it in a server, and I can pass the function directly to the component. So inside this inside the service, I need to create a fetch service. So ng generate service services slash fetch service, and let's create skip tests, and let's create the service. Now when we go to this, you can see we have created the fetch service. So inside this, I can create HTTP equals inject HTTP client. Now I can call the HTTP client. So now we can add a function fetch. You can name it wherever you want, but in my case I set it to fetch return this dot http dot get, and let's copy the name of the post, and let's come here and let's paste this. I think I need to delete this and add one. You can see now I have fetched the data. Now I need to call it inside the component to fetch the data inside the component. Now inside the check component, I need to come here, and I have already I need to inject the fetch service, so I need to say fetch equals inject fetch service. Now I have created the fetch service. Now when we initialize the check component, I need to subscribe to this fetch service and take out the value. So in order to do that, I need to say implements on init, ng on init, and this dot fetch like this, and subscribe. And after we subscribe, we can call next. I think it is like this. I forget it. Yeah, I need to create this, and I can pause like this. First, we need to create a signal to fetch the data. Fetch 1 equals signal. Let's say null initially, and let's say any. and let's save this. Let's import this and let's save this. Now this dot first response, which is any, this dot fetch one dot set response, like this. After fetching the data, we can set this fetch one to the data we get from the server, and if there is an error, we can say error, which is any sorry, like this. So console.log, let's say something went wrong. And let's save this. Now we can render the fetch one inside the check HTML. Inside this, we can come here and we can say if first we need to check fetch one is exists or not. So let's say fetch one, like this. Oh, I made a mistake. Sorry. At if fetch one existed, we need to render h1 fetch one, not like this, like this, h1 dot title, which is the title of the JSON process order which we get from the server. Now if I render this like this, and if I come here, you can see it will render the data successfully. Now it has rendered the data, but what if the data is an array of object? So in that case, we can use the for loop. Let's remove this. And in this case, the data we get from this server will be an array of objects. So in this case, if I render this, it will not give me the data because it is an array of objects, but we are trying to render the data as a string, so it will not render properly. So to render this properly, we need to come to this check component. So instead of rendering this, we need to create a for loop. And inside this for loop, I can say fetch one, like this. And inside this, I need to render fetch.title. So I need to delete this and come here and save this. Now if I come here, the data will be shown. Let's reload this. Oh, something is missing. Let's see that. I don't know, it's not working. Let's see. Yeah, it is not fetch one, it is item. Because we are looping through the fetch one and we are rendering the item, so we need to say this to item and save this. And when I come here, you can see it will render all the elements. Let's change this to P. Let's save this and let's come here. You can see it will render the elements successfully. Now the other is if you want to add credentials and other information inside the service, you can use option like this, or you can give any name and you can specify outside of this like this option equals, you can create, let's say, with credentials true. It's giving me error. This dot option. Now you can render this option like this, and you can also create headers, and you can create your custom header like this, but for now I don't do that. So this is how you create how you fetch data inside Angular. So we have finished our lessons. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next tutorial.